some clarity on my mission and why I want to do what I've been doing and have started. And basically, it's a lot, but over the last few years, I've learned a lot and learned a lot about myself, learned a lot about what I went through in my childhood, and basically, I had an epiphany, as crazy as it may sound, when I was out weed whipping in my front yard a few years ago, going on a few years ago now. And basically that epiphany was that I'm not doing as good as I could be. I'm not being my best self. And I want to be, because I've struggled for a long time with what my purpose is. And that sucks. I can fully relate to not knowing what your purpose is. Life is too short. And so I chose to go to therapy because I was like, I know that I'm being a better dad than what I came from, but not good enough. So I chose to go to therapy and take a deep dive into myself and look at myself and take extreme accountability and care about doing the right thing and learning everything and anything that I needed to know to be a good man, a good husband, a good father. And no, I'm not perfect. No, I don't have it all figured out, but I care, and I've learned a shitload. And you only know what you know, and you don't know what you don't know. And so basically, with everything that I've learned along the last few years, I feel like it that it's me being of service to try and give back through what I have learned in those few categories. Basically, the deal is I went to therapy and I learned that I was abused and neglected, and I didn't even really understand that. I knew a lot of things that I went through in my childhood was not good. Basically, my childhood was full of chaos. I was stuck in between my parents and my grandparents fighting, let alone my parents fighting. For hours straight. I would listen to my parents fight, which wasn't good for me at all, but I would listen to my parents fight nightly. I would listen to my parents fight sometimes for 3 fucking hours straight, and I was always worried that, and would listen because I was afraid that my dad was going to hit my mom or something, and I was like, fuck, I'm going to go down and break him up. It was just chaos. It sucked. And so I kind of learned more about that through therapy. I went to therapy for almost 2 years straight until I couldn't, part of it was free at first through insurance, and it still cost, that's $150 a day, if I was to pay. Thank God I didn't have to pay the whole time. I still racked up definitely a little bit of a bill, but altogether, I added it up, and like I say in the other video, I did, and it's not about the money, but yet it is. It's like, and when I say that, it's sad. It's a sad thing, because if people want to help themselves, we shouldn't have to pay. It shouldn't be about the money. We should just be able to get help. if people want to help themselves, we should have that available to us. And so anyway, when I chose to go to therapy, I basically lost my wife, my mom, and my dad. And some of it was by choice. Um, you know, not exactly with my wife. Things kind of fell apart there, and we separated, unfortunately, and that bout killed me. That was tough as hell, it really was, but I fucked up and did a lot wrong. Pardon my French, but, I'm a sailor. And I'm just being vulnerable and real because I don't care. That's part of what I'm here for as well, too, is to just be real. And so, it was like, okay, well, I definitely, what matters most to me, and that was my family, my wife, my kids, and I had to learn different things like, I have to matter to me. I have to love me. I literally would, tell myself in the mirror, I love you, Josh, because I didn't love myself. And so there began the journey, the healing journey, my healing journey, which thank God I ended up on. And I ended up going down that path because I was supposed to. And so a lot happened with that. I fought for years to try and have a relationship with my dad. Lots of heartache, lots of tears. My dad basically treated me like shit up until, about a year ago or so. And beings I learned to love myself. I said, if I love myself, will I continue to let my dad talk to me like shit and treat me like shit? Well, that's a pretty easy answer. No. Who in their right mind would? There's plenty of people actually that do and still do, but a lot of times it's people pleasing. It's not wanting to break the cycle. It's not wanting to give up possibly access. I mean, I had access if I would have wanted to, different lake houses and wave runners and different things. I don't give a shit because my peace and cleaning up my life meant more. And that's what mattered. And so, I had to realize, I was taught to hunt and fish by him, but that was all, and I'm thankful for that. And I fully understand that, it's not all of our parents' fault, because things are passed down from generations ago. And so, but I'm an only child, and everything apparently was meant to fall on me, because things are passed down from generation to generation until there's a brave enough soul to break the cycle and clean the shit out. And there is years of nasty ass shit in my background and family that needed to be cleaned out. And lucky me for all of that to fall on. But you know what? I don't care. I took it on and took extreme accountability and continue to. I challenge myself to look at myself and take accountability. It's okay to be wrong. It's okay to make mistakes. And, so like I say, I was taught, and my mom is definitely a wonderful lady. I even had to get to the point where I had to unfortunately cut contact with her for a while, and me and her have been able to have vulnerable conversations and have healing, and what was meant to happen happened. And I do have my mom in my life, and we've made a lot of progress, and I'm thankful for her. I'm coming up on a full year that I went no contact with my dad. But that was after years of trying, and, I feel for him still. And I love my dad, but sometimes you got to love people from a distance. You know, I got tired of being hurt and, again, treated like shit and wasn't going to stand for it anymore. You know, he even said to me one time, I would understand, you know, if you cut me off, basically. So self-fulfilling prophecy right there. Be careful what you wish for. And, you know, I had to make sure that I could show up right for my kids and, you know, my wife, and try to salvage that. And it's been hard as hell. And, you know, to kind of bounce back to it a little bit, you know, our parents may not have asked for what happened to them, and then, you know, the modeled behavior that essentially, you know, is passed to us. But, you know, it is our job to make a change and to make different choices and to do things better, you know, and to grow up. There's a bunch of children out here in adult bodies, and, you know, just because you grow up and turn into an adult, air quotes, doesn't mean that your emotional quotient rose. You know, it takes work and effort to grow up and to learn things and to do better and to learn how to be a good person. And that should matter to you. You know, being your best self should matter to you. And if not, that's cool too. You know, live your life how you want. It's all our life to live, you know. But yeah, basically, I was just like, okay, well, I was taught how to hunt and fish, but outside of that, I wasn't taught how to be a good husband at all. My dad honestly treated my mom like shit, and I wasn't taught how to be a good father. And really just was around a bunch of nasty behavior, so I wasn't even taught how to be a good person. Because we are supposed to lead by example for our kids. You have to be a leader. You have to lead by example. They're watching you. It doesn't exactly even matter what you say, but you need to lead by example. We need to lead by example. I need to lead by example. And it's important to just be able to create that change and be aware of that. And yeah, so basically I've just been on a mission to heal myself and take accountability and look at myself. And I had a bunch of toxic behavior. I did. You know, of course, not just a horrible fucking person, but I had a bunch of toxic behavior that I had to clean up. And I had to learn what, you know, gaslighting is and being manipulative is and guilting and doing different stuff like that, because I did it. I was guilty of it at one point. I'm super aware of it now and do, you know, my best to not have toxic behavior like that, because it matters to me. You know, and then coming from a grandiose narcissist, which I have learned my father is, unfortunately, even though he would never admit it, because that's not what narcissists do. They don't take accountability. They don't have vulnerability. They have a fake self, you know, and an image that they have to uphold. And so, but that's not me. And I questioned for a long time if I was a narcissist. And I remember even one time asking my own therapist, do you think I'm a narcissist? Like, there was a lot of ebbs and flows and learning curves and just learning things that happened for me rather quick, kind of. And, you know, you can't rush your healing, you know, and you can't expect people to be a certain way, or, you know, you just, yeah, it's kind of, it's a lot. It really is. But ultimately, all I know is it mattered to me to learn how to be a good husband, a good father, and a good person overall. And so, we're not taught those things in school. Again, school to me is just indoctrination and a waste of time. Sure, there's a few things to take from it, but why are we not taught a bunch of constructive things like that in school? And if you're not taught it in school and you're not taught things like that at home, you're being set up for failure. And my whole life was blown apart, and it about cost me my whole life, basically, my marriage, and shit, I could have lost my kids and all of that. Fortunately, I didn't, because that wasn't what was in the cards for me, and that wasn't what was meant to happen. Thank God. But that wasn't without accountability, extreme accountability, and being able to really look at myself and learn that, thank God, I'm not a narcissist, which, I had to be hyper vigilant and aware of walking on fucking eggshells and doing the wrong thing. And I mean, both of my parents were in anger management together. I come from some pretty fucking rough shit. Just because you had both parents doesn't mean much. I had both parents, and that didn't do me much good. Unfortunately, I had a lot of work to do. I had to learn how to show up for myself and parent and reparent little Josh. My inner child, and a couple of the biggest things was anger and anxiety, and I had to learn about what was going on with those parts, and there's a lot to all of that. But I don't think I know it all. I'll never know it all. You gotta, and that's just it too. You gotta be willing to constantly learn and grow, and that doesn't stop ever. And the healing journey that I've been on, that's not just a destination you get to either. The way I see it, I will forever be healing, and with that being said, there will be continued improvement always, and that's what I want. Hell yeah, sign me the fuck up. For real. I make mistakes all the time still. It ain't like I'm coming on here trying to be like, oh man, I am this perfect specimen. No. I just want to help. I feel a duty to help. I have learned through just different learnings and I truly believe I am a light worker that was sent here to help others. And helping others makes me feel good. That fills my cup. Learning how to be a better husband and try to heal things within my marriage and save that has been great. I'm thankful as hell. I'm grateful and thankful, forever grateful, and have a ways to go, but I just want to add value, and yes, at some point, I'm not looking to get rich. I know I'm worthy, and I know the learnings that I have and the value that I have to add to the world, is valuable, and I do, want to be compensated because it's worthy of compensation and isn't just, necessarily a free thing, that I plan to do for free forever. I mean, I want to coach people. I'm not certified to do that necessarily, but it doesn't matter. Through you don't necessarily just always need a degree or to go to college to do these different things. I mean, I do plan to try and figure out a way to, get coaching certified. But it doesn't matter. I'm 37 years old, and like this stuff that I speak on, I've learned a lot and lived a lot and been through lots of trials and tribulations and done a lot of healing and want to give back from that in itself. Have read a handful of books and continue to read. I want to continue to grow and be on the mission to better myself every day as well. But to be a coach doesn't just mean you have it all figured out, because that would be a lie anyway. That wouldn't be real. And it would be intimidating, I feel like, for somebody to work with a coach that just knew it all anyway, which again, that's not even real. Who the hell knows it all? It's not possible. It's not real. And so I just want to help guys like me, and I'm willing to help anybody. I don't want to just limit myself to just work with guys. I'm willing to work with females and women on being their best self and just learning things and being better too. I just want to add value. At some point I want to be compensated for that, but at first, and to get started, all that I want to do is just add value. Like I say, with things that I have learned, and just putting that back out there, but I want to give continued support to people too, and coach and stay consistent with them, and help see that the change in their life is real and for the longevity, so there's a lot of steps I've taken to embody different things. I quit drinking a few years ago, and again, that's not to say that I won't have a drink or maybe two here or there, but it's important for me. I made a lot of mistakes drinking and partying and making a fool of myself, and I just want to feel good. I want to be healthy, feel good, and be financially stable. I don't want to be rich. I don't need a mansion. I want to be able to eat healthy. I want to be able to support my kids, things like that. That is wholesome, and real. Yeah, and that's what's real. That's just a little bit more about, why I'm doing what I'm doing, and so it's going to keep unfolding, and just that's what I'm here for. Again, is just, I want to help guys, because if you weren't taught it in school and you weren't taught it at home, I feel a duty to just help spread what I've learned. If I can help, save others from going through the same problems that I've went through, while being real and vulnerable at the same time, I mean, we can also learn together. If I don't have an answer for you, I can sure find one, or work with you to figure out a plan. Also, be able to have the hard conversations of, what do you want your life to look like? Because there's cycles within us, ourselves, and our, marriages, our relationships, that need to be broken. The cycle needs to be broken. If you want change and you want to do better, it's up to us to do better and to do different things, to get a different result, if it matters enough. Unfortunately, it seems like there's a lot of people who don't give a shit and are just on autopilot and treat others like shit, and just, you have to be aware that your behavior affects those around you. And if not, you're definitely not being your best self. So, yeah, I just kind of wanted to add a little bit of clarity and just vulnerability and truth on where I'm coming from and why I'm doing this. So, yeah, I guess that's about all for now. And that's what I'm here for. The world is hurting. I see too many, it feels like everybody is just dysregulated. They're not aware of their nervous system, and I had to learn a lot with that as well myself. But politics and all of that crap is just a waste of time. Turn that energy around and be a better you. Be your best self. As far as politics go, I had a point where I was just like, well, I don't really know much about politics, so I'm going to learn what Republican and Democratic and all of that bullshit is. But then it was just like, I was, thank God, just woke enough to realize that was going to be a waste of time, because it's a dog and pony show, and voting and all of that. I mean, your local state stuff is debatable, but political shit is a fucking joke. Put the energy into being your best self and being a better you, and looking at yourself and seeing how you can be better. Because chances are there's definitely areas you could learn and be better. Ain't nobody out here know everything. But anyway, instead of learning about the political crap and all of that nonsense, it was like, you know what? I think I'm going to put that energy into myself and learning how to be my best self. And what a great thing. That was one of the best choices that I've ever made. I hold myself to a high standard, and what you put out there comes back to you. And so I constantly focus on just putting good out there and treating others as I want to be treated, and yeah, because that's what's important. Love, peace, and connection, as whatever it may sound or however you may take that, that's what really matters. Time is the most valuable thing on this earth. And, really in the scheme of time, maybe 80 years we're here, up to 100, and 100 was more of an old school thing. That's with all of the crap that's in our food and water and hitting us from every angle nowadays, it's more like, I've always said I'd be grateful and lucky to make it to 70, which I'm 37, so it's like I'm halfway there. And so I want to add value and make a positive impact on the world, and it's tough. That was a tough step to take, but hopefully this message reaches the right people, and I'm going to continue to just do some long form videos, some shorts, and just, I'm here for you guys. Get a hold of me, message me. I have an Instagram as well, at Smokey, lowercase s _ Hunter, lowercase h on the Hunter, 12, at Smokey _ Hunter 12. Follow my Instagram as well, because I'm pretty much working between, Instagram and YouTube, and, hope for things to take off, and maybe I can make enough money in the future to be comfortable, because that's definitely important, and we all have to live, and pay for things. It's not free. The value that I have to give, I want to put out there to start, for free, because I'm not, again, looking to get rich. But yeah, so I'm here, I'm not going anywhere, and I feel good to be able to add value to your guys' life, and to hold myself accountable to be better always as well too. And keep in mind that, just being open to others' opinions too, and just knowing that the way that you see it isn't just the way it is. And that's for me too. Just the way that I know the way that I see it isn't, or my opinion isn't the only opinion that matters. As far as opinions go, to touch on it real quick, I mean, everybody can have their own opinion. That's fine. We should. If we all saw things the same, that would be weird, you know? Have your own opinion, stand in your own opinion, but we can respectfully and in a mature way agree to disagree. You know, there doesn't even need to be all of the violence and stupid ass useless wars in the world. The answer is not violence. You can have confrontation and have a mature conversation without there having to be violence, you know. The only time that I plan to be violent is protecting myself or my family, and that's the way that it should be. You know, outside of that, you shouldn't be putting your hands on nobody ever. You know, keep your damn hands to yourself, right? Type thing. That's like elementary type stuff that we were indoctrinated in and learned, right? In elementary, I think, you know. Treat others as you want to be treated, again, type idea. But for real though, and so I just want to be my best self, and I want to help those that care enough to work on themselves or hold themselves to a higher standard and grow and learn and change, because we should always be willing to learn, relearn, and unlearn. And let's do it together. I mean, really, you know, we could run the world if all of us woke ones or ones willing to wake up would come together. You know, instead they have us controlled and in fear and scarcity, a whole bunch of shit. When again, what really matters is life, love, each other, family, connection, our own life, and just enjoying this one ride that we know that we're on, and making the best of it by being our best self, because you attract what you are. If you're anger and hate, you're gonna attract that. Your outside world is a reflection of your inner world. If you're peace and love and put that out there, trust and believe it's going to come back to you. I see it all the time, and I consistently focus on being authentic and real, you know, which comes with other things too. You know, there's ups and downs throughout each day, you know, and sometimes I have hard times, but I mean, as far as the healing, you know, goes from our childhood, you know, and kind of having to heal from different things, it's not linear. It's not just a, you know, we're going straight up. It's kind of like, you know, up and down and up and down, and good days, bad days, sometimes, you know, maybe bad weeks, bad months, bad years. That's life. That's what's real, you know, no toxic positivity, because that's what that is. Ain't nobody gonna be just happy as hell all the time, you know. Be real. Just honor how you're feeling throughout the day and throughout your life, but yet keep in mind that your behavior has an effect on those around you. And, you know, this world is brutal. It really is. Everything is aimed against us. I mean, really. The best that you can do is protect your peace and make changes, cut people off, protect yourself, protect your family, and do your best. Just do your best, you know, and your best is going to look different from day to day, you know, but as long as you're doing your best, and think about that, you know, always know, question yourself, am I doing my best? Am I being my best self? And if not, make changes, do better, try different things, learn different things, just biggest thing is be willing to learn, you know, and it's a conscious choice as well too, you know, because like I say, how rough and brutal the world is on us, it's also a blessing to be here. It's a hell of a blessing, and life is beautiful. It's a great day to be alive every day you wake up, you know, really. I know for myself, you know, it was just like, God, and gratitude is huge too, just practicing gratitude. My nose is itchy, sorry guys. But just be grateful that you're here, you know, the good and the bad. A lot of times the bad and the hard times is teaching us something. Just let it teach you something, and then enjoy the good times, you know. Life is a roller coaster. It's up and down. Nothing lasts forever, right? You know, that's why you got to be detached too, and just learn to detach. Attachment is the root of all suffering. So as hard as that is, you know, and I can make more videos on different things, like some of the subjects I've hit, like the law of attachment or detachment, shall we say, you know, but yeah, I'll probably cut it off and end it there for now, but I'm gonna keep going with this. Just wanted to give a little bit more, I guess, backstory on myself and what I went through, really, and just be vulnerable, and yeah, you can do it. You matter. You're worth it. You being your best self is worth it, because your life will benefit from it. And so treat others as you want to be treated. Put good out there. Be respectful. You know, be kind. You don't have to people please. You don't have to be nice. You know, that's one thing I learned too, you know, was I was like, God, I just want to be a nice guy. But that's, I am kind, I'm not nice. Being nice gets you rant over and take advantage of, you know. It shouldn't be your goal just to be just nice, as nice as you can possibly be either. But again, you know what, you don't need to be rude to everybody and treat others like shit. Be kind as much as possible, but be kind to yourself as well. You know, love yourself first, and then you can spread that. And just be real. Just live your authentic life. We all have a natural filter, and that is authenticity. I've talked about it on my Instagram page, and we'll talk about it again in the future. I mean, birds of a feather flock together. When you're being your most real self, you will attract those that resonate with your message and your opinions, values, and beliefs, you know. And sometimes those change. Sometimes things that you used to stand for, you know, or let slide, you kind of make changes, and you're like, well, that doesn't work for me in my life anymore. And that could cost you your spouse. That could cost you your parents even. But just because you're blood, you know, doesn't mean that, you know, that's a automatic right to access to you. You know, protect your energy, protect your peace, and be your best self. Much love, guys, and namaste. Until next time.